Everybody has an opinion about motorcycles, whether they feel terrified or secretly curious. For you and me, bikes mean freedom and focus, but to non-riders, they look like dangerous toys and crisis machines. Tonight, we tear into 13 myths with honest detail. From "you will die if you ride" to "loud pipes save lives," and I had to lay her down. Myth 13 is the one your family repeats every holiday. And myth 1 is what we tell when pride gets louder. Myth number 13, if you ride, you will die. You have heard this one at every family dinner. The quiet warning that a bike is a rolling death wish and that the road will eventually win. Reality is sharper and more useful than that, because per mile, our risk is higher than car drivers, yet the danger is not random. The worst numbers stack around drunk riding. No license, no training, no helmet, night traffic, and junk gear. So the real killers are bad habits and bad preparation. Classic crash work and newer data agree that most multi-vehicle wrecks happen because a driver never truly sees the bike, while many single-vehicle crashes come from too much speed or poor corner control, which are skills we can improve. When you put on solid armor, a modern full-face helmet, real gloves and boots that actually protect bone and skin, you cut the odds of serious injury in a very real way. Add good training, sober riding, and smart space around traffic, and suddenly you are not playing hero, you are playing the math like a calm adult. For older riders, the goal is not to beat physics, it is to stack every small advantage until the risk feels managed and not chaotic. Once you see it that way, this myth starts to fall apart, and the rest of the scary talk gets easier to poke at. Myth number 12, you can't ride in the rain. Non-riders see dark clouds and tell you to keep the bike parked, like a little water turns two wheels into instant disaster. The truth is that rain is a skill problem and a gear problem, not some magic kill switch. And once you respect that, wet rides can feel almost peaceful. Modern tires use softer rubber and proper water channels, so they keep real grip when you ride smooth and give them time to work, with the slickest moment in the first few minutes as oil lifts to the surface. You ease your throttle, brake earlier and more gently, add space, and stay relaxed on the bars so the chassis can stay stable instead of tense. Smart riders treat paint lines, metal plates, and standing water as real hazards, not slalom cones, and they know that big storm drains can hide deep ruts. Big crash studies show that most wrecks happen in DRI weather anyway, which means human error, not rain, is still the main enemy for most riders. For older knees and shoulders, good rain gear is a safety tool, because staying warm and dry keeps joints loose and your mind calm instead of stiff and miserable. When you see rain as another riding skill to practice, not a spooky curse, this myth loses its power and the bike starts to feel like true year-round transport again, not just a sunny day toy. If you want real talk about staying alive and still having fun on two wheels, hit subscribe and ride with us. We break down what actually keeps older riders safer, calmer, and more confident, not just noisy barstool stories and mice today. Myth number 11, loud pipes save lives. Most riders have heard it for years, the claim that a raging exhaust is your best safety system and that noise alone keeps you visible among blind drivers. It feels comforting because volume is easy and bolt-on parts are fun, but that does not make the idea true. Exhaust sound blasts mostly toward the rear, while the car that might turn across you is in front, sealed by glass, insulation, and music that soak up most of that rumble. By the time most drivers clearly hear a loud bike, it is already beside or past them, so the sound arrives too late to change their decision. What really buys you safety is visual presence and predictable behavior, strong front lighting, smart lane position, sensible speed, and enough space that other people can notice and react. A bright helmet, a light jacket, and reflective details on bags make you stand out in a sea of dark cars, far more than any deep exhaust ever will. For older riders, constant drone on the highway can also be real fatigue, raising stress, hurting long-distance comfort, and making it harder to stay sharp when you are tired. None of this means you must hate sound. It just means we should stop pretending it works like a magic force field around the bike. Build your safety plan around vision, spacing, gear, and training. Then let sound be a style choice, and this myth shrinks down to simple, personal taste. Myth number 10. It's fine, I don't need gear for short rides. You know this one by heart? The quick store run in sandals and a t-shirt because the road feels familiar and the speed will stay low. The problem is that most crashes happen close to home. On streets, well, at city speeds, still fast enough to shred skin and twist joints if things go wrong. A sudden turn across your lane, a dog, a little gravel, and you are sliding on bare knees, while unprotected hands take painful impacts. For older riders, bones are more fragile, skin is thinner, and healing is slower, so even a small spill turns into weeks of pain and lost freedom. The minimum kit for any ride is simple insurance, a solid helmet, real gloves, a jacket with proper armor, and boots that cover your ankles so they do not fold like twigs. Mesh and perforated gear keep you cool. Zip cuffs make on and off fast. And modern textiles give strong protection without feeling like heavy plastic armor. One emergency room visit can cost more money than a full set of quality gear, and that bill arrives long after the bruises fade. Think of your gear as a seatbelt. You choose every time you roll out, even for 10 quiet minutes, and the habit soon becomes simple and automatic. Once you accept that, the post-crash line, "I had to lay her down," starts to sound weak, which is exactly where we go next with myth number 9. Myth number 9, I had no choice but to lay it down. You hear this line after a crash when the bike is on its side and pride feels bruised. I had no choice. I had to lay her down. It sounds heroic, like the rider made a sacrifice, but most of the time it is plain panic and confusion, not some secret professional move. On clean, dry pavement, rubber and good brakes stop far faster than a sliding pile of metal and plastic because the tires keep real grip and the suspension keeps working. The real enemy in many of these stories is target fixation and sudden terror. The car guardrail fills your vision, and you freeze your arms instead of squeezing the lever in a calm, strong way. Basic emergency skills change that picture. Straight line maximum braking, a quick but smooth swerve, rolling off earlier when your gut says, "This feels tight," instead of charging in, proud. Motorcycles want to stay upright and stable. Gyroscopic forces keep them rolling straight if you let the wheels turn, and the chassis keeps moving. So it actually takes work to make one fall. Your best odds almost always live on the bike, using every bit of traction and every inch of open space you can find. For older riders, that means finding an empty lot once in a while, running a few hard stops, and maybe taking an advanced class so your reflexes stay sharp. When you drop the lay it down hero script, you can look honestly at what went wrong and stack more real options for the next close call, instead of telling yourself a comforting story. If you are nodding along because you have heard these myths for years, hit like and drop a hype. It tells the algorithm there are still riders who really care about honest detail. Myth number 8, motorcycles are cheap to own. This one hooks new riders fast because the sticker price on a small used bike looks friendly and the fuel numbers look almost magical. You see $4,000 for a clean standard, compare it to a big truck payment, and your wallet feels relieved. But ownership is a long game, and the real costs show up in tires, insurance, chains and sprockets, valve checks, fluids, and the little surprise failures that any machine can throw at you. Sport tires can vanish in a few thousand miles. Track days drink money and fees, gas and pads, and even relaxed tourers need rubber and brake fluid on a steady clock. Then the fun parts creep in. A more comfortable seat, higher bars for old shoulders, a taller screen to cut buffet, luggage that turns weekend loops into real trips. None of that is evil, but it adds up quietly. And if you do not plan, the hobby becomes a constant drain instead of a steady joy. The trick for older riders is to buy one reliable, versatile machine with sane service intervals. Then add gear with a clear plan instead of chasing every shiny part. One solid bike with good tires, good suspension, and good luggage usually beats 3 half-sorted projects that always need work. If you treat riding like any grown-up hobby with a budget and a little discipline, the costs stay controlled and the miles feel well-earned. Myth number 7, bikes are too impractical, you must have a car. People love to say motorcycles are cute weekend toys that fall apart the moment real life shows up, as if nobody on earth ever commuted on 2 wheels. Travel to any big city with mild weather, and you will see scooters and small bikes stacked at every light, hauling groceries, work bags, and kids' gear, while cars sit stuck. A bike can be very practical for solo riders or couples in towns where winters are soft and parking is tight, because fuel stays low and traffic stress is far less. And with decent luggage, you can shop, run errands, visit family, and even do light touring, all while keeping the ride fun instead of exhausting. The limits are real though. Ice and deep snow, heavy family loads, big furniture, and some medical needs where a roof and extra seats make real sense. Older riders need one simple backup for hospital visits, bad storms, or sore days. That backup does not have to be a shiny new truck. It can be a shared family car, a modest used hatch, even a local rental or car share for big hauls. Think bike first, backup second, and suddenly the word impractical feels a lot less loud. The key is to match your tools to your real life, not to someone else's opinion. And if a bike covers most of your miles with a smile, that sounds pretty practical to me. Myth number 6. A bigger bike is safer, especially on the highway. This myth sounds reasonable at first because more weight can feel stable at speed, and extra power makes passing feel easy and secure. A big touring rig shrugs off crosswinds. A large cruiser feels planted in the truck wash, and the motor barely loafs at legal numbers, which can feel very calm. The bill comes due at low speed, where that same weight turns into real work for aging knees and wrists, and a sleepy mistake in a parking lot becomes a hard drop. Big engines are also strong engines, so a sloppy twist of the throttle can launch more speed than your brain was really asking for, especially coming back to riding after a long break. Stopping distance depends on grip, brakes, and rider input, not size, and a heavy bike with worn pads and tires can feel less secure in a panic stop. Modern mid-sized machines will sit all day at 70 or 80 miles per hour with relaxed revs, good wind control, and far less bulk to wrestle in the garage. For senior riders, the real safety gains come from a bike that fits your height, strength, and reaction speed, something you can move around with quiet confidence. Smooth inputs, clear vision, and mental space matter more than cylinder count, and an honest sit test tells you more truth than any spec sheet brag. Take a few test rides, listen to your back and your hands, and pick the machine that keeps you relaxed and in control, not just the one your ego wants to park outside. If you appreciate someone calling out these myths without the usual bull, hit subscribe and ring the bell. We build every list for riders who care about comfort, control, and getting home reliably, not just chasing drama for cheap views. Myth number 5. Motorcycles are always faster than cars. Riders love this myth because it feeds pride and turns every short straight into a tiny battle where the bike feels unbeatable. In a drag from one light to the next, even a mid-sized twin can jump ahead with sharp thrust, while most family cars feel sleepy. That straight line surge is real thrill and a big part of why two wheels feel so alive compared to quiet commuter metal. The trouble shows up when you look at full road loops, long canyon runs, or track days, where corner speed and braking control actually decide winners. Modern performance cars carry wide sticky tires, serious brakes, and useful downforce that keeps them stable into bends while 4 big contact patches keep working. Drivers also sit inside a rigid shell with safer belts and airbags so they can stay relaxed much deeper into a corner than most riders dare. On a bike, your survival brain feels real height and real consequence. So most of us roll off early, long before the chassis runs out of grip. For older riders, the real target is not beating every supercar. It is staying smooth, predictable, and healthy enough to ride again tomorrow. Let the wild speed talk live at the track and treat quick riding like strong spice. A little makes life rich. Too much brings trouble. Once you see that, bragging that bikes are always faster than cars feels more silly than smart, and it sets up the next myth about training. Myth number 4. You do not need training, just experience. This myth sounds tough and old school. The proud line about the classroom of hard knocks and never needing formal lessons. Some riders wear that history like armor and talk as if scars were proof that they have mastered every dangerous situation the road can offer. Real life is different because miles without method also build tense shoulders, lazy vision, and weak braking habits that only show up when things go wrong. A good class takes those same skills, hard stops, quick swerves, tight U-turns, and drills them in a controlled space with clear feedback and repetition. In one weekend, you can feel braking power grow stronger. Low speed, balance calm down, and hazard scanning becomes smoother and more automatic. For older riders, this is especially valuable because reaction time, night vision, and joint flexibility are not what they were at 20, even if you feel fit. Training adds real safety margin on top of your years of experience, so when a car drifts, a dog runs, or gravel appears, you have extra control. Look at pilots, truckers, and emergency drivers. They all refresh skills again and again, and nobody calls them weak for wanting better outcomes when things get nasty. Once you drop the tough guy pose and admit there is more to learn, you feel ready for more skill and finally able to face the age question. Myth number 3. You are too old to start or come back to riding. This myth usually comes from people who care about you, and their worry is often honest, because aging bodies change and bones feel more fragile. Age does change recovery time, joint flexibility, and night vision, but it does not erase the joy of a smooth throttle and a clear horizon. Plenty of riders start or return in their 50s, 60s, or even 70s on lighter lower machines with modern brakes and reliable fueling that reduce stress. The trick is to choose a bike that fits your body, keeps your knees relaxed, your wrists neutral, and lets both feet feel stable at stops. Add simple strength work, short walks, maybe a bit of stretching, and you will notice that long days in the saddle feel more comfortable again. Talk openly with your doctor about heart health, balance issues, and medications, so you know where the real limits are before you chase longer trips. Start with modest loops, avoid late-night highway runs at first, and focus on building confidence instead of trying to match old top speed stories. When you approach it this way, age becomes another factor to manage, not a brick wall that locks you away from something that still brings happiness. On the other side is a different myth, the snobby idea that only one style of bike is authentic and everything else does not count. Myth number 2, only one style is a real motorcycle. Brand warriors and style snobs push this myth, acting like only their chosen look is valid, serious, and worthy, and everything else is some kind of toy. You will hear that only big twins count, or only razor-sharp sport bikes, or only tall ADV rigs deserve respect, and the rest are just decoration. In reality, each category solves a different problem, from low seat cruisers that keep hips relaxed, to plush tourers that prize comfort, to light standards that stay nimble. Dual sports, scooters, and small electrics may look humble, but they slip through traffic, park easily, and carry groceries or work bags with real practical value. For older riders, the right bike is the one that keeps knees happy, back stable, and wrists relieved enough that you want another ride tomorrow. Mixing it up can keep the passion fresh. A nimble single for local errands, and a larger tourer for vacation miles instead of one oversized monument to ego. Once you ignore the tribal noise and focus on what really fits your body and budget, the whole riding world feels much wider again. That clear view makes the final myth easier to tackle. The quiet belief that modern tech is a crutch for weak riders instead of useful extra protection. If this list helped you explain riding to family, or even check a few habits of your own, hit like, drop a hype, and help more riders find honest, experience-based, practical content. Myth number 1, ABS and rider aids make you a lazy rider. This last myth whispers that proper riders do not need extra support, that ABS, traction control, and ride modes are toys for riders with weak skills. The truth is that these systems are simply extra tools, sensors, and small computers watching wheel speed and lean angle far faster than any human brain. ABS keeps wheels from locking during a panic grab, helps the bike stay more stable, and gives you a better chance to stay upright in steering. Traction control trims power when the rear spins on gravel, paint, or wet leaves, trading a sudden high side for a smaller, more managed slide. Cornering ABS and ride modes can adjust braking and throttle response for rain, gravel, or touring, adding a layer of safety that never gets tired. None of this replaces judgment, road reading, or smooth inputs. It just catches small mistakes that would once have turned into serious damage. For older riders, having that electronics net under your own hard-won skill set adds real confidence without stealing the challenge or the sense of control. The smart move is to learn what each system does, practice hard stops in a quiet lot, and then leave the aids switched on as a stealthy backup so you can trust. And when you stack honest habits, modern training, and helpful electronics together, the risk curve bends downward, while the years you can ride stay richer. Strip away all 13 myths, and what remains is simple, real risks, real rewards, and a lot of control in your own hands every single day. Click the next video for our deep dive on bikes that stay reliable past 100,000 miles and how to pick one that truly fits your body and budget. Then hit subscribe and stay with us for engines, long-distance comfort and control, and the real habits that keep older riders on the road instead of stuck on the couch.